I believe we have about 45 minutes of presentation and some time to answer questions as well. So that's important, the feedback. My wife and I, we are always in service. Service is central to our life. And in fact, even our research is around service and communities, all communities throughout the world. We've traveled throughout the world. I worked at NIH, National Institutes of Health, in Building 10, which is the most the wonkiest place in the planet where you do the most unusual research. And I was there in 2002. Tommy Thompson, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, knew me from my public health background and asked me to go to Afghanistan. I went there, supposed to be there for 3 months. I wasn't going to leave my work at NIH and NASA and work in Afghanistan for nothing. And it turned out that the situation was so desperate, and I had never seen any post-apocalyptic situation like that. So I ended up staying for 3 years. I was the youngest deputy minister in Asia, created the entire healthcare system there around women's empowerment. Aisha had gone back from medical school to try to help with the Doctors Without Borders, and then we met in a party. And our first conversation was around our grandparents, who were brilliant people. Columbia University surgeon, Johns Hopkins trained public health, created world level, but they died of Alzheimer's. So that was our first conversation. Then several dates ensued, and a year later we were married. And then we came back, restarted everything around prevention. We took the path less traveled. A lot of people out there on TV and everything selling their little products. We know that brain health can be had. 90% of Alzheimer's can be prevented, but more important than prevention of Alzheimer's, brain capacity can be preserved and maintained and expanded. But without anything you have to pay to us or anybody else. No vitamin concoction is going to help. No pill combination. It's going to have to be a comprehensive lifestyle at home. You don't even have to buy our books. I'm always reluctant to show our books because it's not about salesmanship. It's about what people do in their homes, but it has to be comprehensive. So coming back, we've been working in communities, and to us, all communities are the same, whether it's West Virginia or where I come from, which is Pittsburgh, which is the center of the universe, by the way. And or the black churches where we're working, or the Hispanic churches, or like I said, West Virginia. No matter where, we need to actually expand the concept of prevention. Prevention is critical. And when they asked me to talk to you guys and the population that I'll be speaking to, you are the ambassadors. You are the people that are going to be most affected. And it's the biggest fear in America and in the West for that matter, which is Alzheimer's. But it's not just about Alzheimer's. There's Alzheimer's, stroke, and the umbrella category, which is dementia. Dementia is when brain is affected to the extent where you can't do some of your daily activities. That's dementia. Alzheimer's is a subtype of that. But before we get that, I wanted to kind of unless you guys want to ask another question, I can do it that way, or I can get into my little speech or diatribe.
We can take questions towards the end, Dr. Scherzer, because I think it's important that you get into the 4 pathways to Alzheimer's. Maybe talk about Loma Linda and the neighboring community and how you saw firsthand the differences on how people ate and lived their lifestyle, and how disease progressed in one community as opposed to the other.
Of course, I'll do all of that. So let's talk about the brain. This little 3-pound organ, although this one is a little heavier than 3 pounds. So this little 3-pound organ, which is 2% of your body's weight, but consumes 25% of your body's energy. There is the problem, there is the solution. Nothing else you need outside of that, right there. That machine that has 87 billion neurons, 1 quadrillion connections, potential connections, consumes 25% of your body's energy. It works continuously, even does some of its best work at night when you're sleeping. And it's overwhelmed. This brain was not expected to live to 50, 60, 70, or beyond. It was expected to live to 30, just long enough for you to reproduce, produce, and then we, die. But we are cheating the system. So everything you're hearing on TV, on internet, everything about keto this or paleo this, these are all fake. These are all coming out of concepts that people love hearing good news about their bad habits. If somebody would have told me 30 years ago that bacon was medicine, I would have left everything and was just ate bacon. But that's not true. So we need to cheat the system because the system was not designed to maintain your brain to 60, 70, 80 or beyond. But we can do it. We can have a very powerful, vibrant, ever-growing brain well into our 80s, 90s, and beyond. And we have examples of those. Some of the ones Jane Goodall, a good friend of ours who's just about to publish another book called The Book of Hope. We had Linus Pauling, a scientist that did some of his best work in his 80s and 90s. And the joke I say, Picasso, who did some of his best painting in his 90s, but most people wouldn't know any different anyway. That's a joke. I recognize his art for what it was. It was good. And then we had a cardiothoracic surgeon in Loma Linda, where we went back to work after NIH and UCSD, which were the number 1 and number 2 places in the world in neuroscience. We actually went, and there's a doctor called Dr. Wareham, who did open to closed surgeries up to age 95. For those of you who are surgeons or doctors, you realize that most surgeons after 65 don't do the whole thing. They get assistance. He did open to close till 95, and at 95 he retired because he wanted to travel. And he did. He traveled, he spoke, he had conversations, public health, on prevention. And at age 104, right at the end, he got sick and passed away, which is the way we want it. We want to have as little chronic disease as we want till the end, and then that the end comes whenever it does. But that's what preventive medicine is. But before we talk about prevention, we have the tsunami to talk about. Alzheimer's. 6.2 million Americans suffer from Alzheimer's. One person diagnosed every 64 seconds from dementia. And that's an understatement, because in many communities, they have dementia. They never go back to the doctors to find out. And that number is growing rapidly. It's the costliest disease in America. Second and third costliest diseases combined, heart disease and all cancers combined, at 190 billion. Direct cost of Alzheimer's, 340 billion. Indirect cost, another 240 billion. That's just enormous amounts of cost. So we really have to address this, because in a few years, it will be at $1.1 to $3 trillion, which will by itself collapse our healthcare system if we don't do something about it. But the way we've approached it is false. We approach it as if we can cure it with one pill. We can't cure Alzheimer's with one pill. We can't cure it with one activity. It has to be a comprehensive, long-term treatment. That's the only way. And if we do that, we can affect the country as a whole. Because when I talk about cognitive Alzheimer's, it's not just Alzheimer's, it's the cognitive decline, because Alzheimer's and other dementias don't start at a point. They start 20 years earlier. And if we don't head it off early enough, nothing you can do can stop it. There's a lot of doctors out there who are selling pills saying that they could reverse Alzheimer's. That cannot be further from the truth. That's criminal. They're trying to make money off of people's hopes and people's fears. But if you catch it early enough, you can definitely reverse it, 90%, and that's accepted by everybody now. Just 15 years ago, when we talked about prevention, it was a controversial topic. It's not controversial anymore. The only controversy is the fact that now most people say about 60% of Alzheimer's can be prevented. We say about 90% if people approach it comprehensive enough in an appropriate way. And I'll tell you what that means. Let's talk about one other fact, genetics. The genetics of Alzheimer's is well known. The type of genes that have 100% penetrance, meaning that if you have the gene, you will get the disease no matter what, only constitute 3% of all Alzheimer's. The rest are epigenetic mixture of gene and environment. In fact, mostly environment. Even the well-known gene, the ApoE4, is mostly environmental influenced. So lifestyle and environment are critical factors, because underneath it all, there are 4 factors that determine disease, chronic disease: inflammation, oxidation, glucose dysregulation, and lipid dysregulation. What does that mean? Inflammation is all kinds of inflammation, from infections to gingival infections, knee problems, infections as a result of UTIs, or just indolent infection as a result of stress. I'll explain that in a second. Oxidation is from fat. Lipid dysregulation is high cholesterol. And glucose dysregulation is prediabetes, insulin resistance, and diabetes. Any one of these can push you towards Alzheimer's. And usually it's a combination of them, or pre-combination of them, that can really significantly contribute to the developing Alzheimer's. So what affects those things? What can affect glucose dysregulation? What can affect lipid dysregulation? What can affect inflammation? Food, exercise, stress, sleep or restorative sleep, and optimizing mental activity. That's critical. So let's talk about, so with that, we've come up with the acronym NEURO, N-E-U-R-O. It's kind of self-serving. My wife and I are both neurologists, so we created that acronym. N for nutrition, E for exercise, U for unwind, and that's a very important one. I'm going to talk about that a little more. R for restorative sleep, not just sleep because you've been knocked out with a pill or something. Restorative sleep. And O is optimizing mental activity, which is challenging your brain throughout life. Let's talk about nutrition. Nutrition is critical. Nutrition is profound. Whether you look at the Mind diet, which has been shown to reduce your chance of Alzheimer's by 53%. For all the pills out there, for all the vitamins out there, none of them have been proven to stop the disease. They claim they have, but they can never show you the data. Mind diet showed that it could reduce the chance of Alzheimer's by 53%. Mediterranean diet, which we worked in the California teacher study, my wife won the American Heart Association Award for that, and others, showed that a Mediterranean diet reduced your chance of Alzheimer's and stroke by 45 to 50%. A vegetarian diet reduced your chance of Alzheimer's by 100% in one population, or twice as much, half as much. So that's remarkable. And whatever diet you look at, when you distill, what was it about these diets that was most powerful? It's very common. We've written it in our book, The Neuro 9. It's greens, 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 greens. Beans, 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 beans. Legumes, whole grains, cruciferous vegetables, herbs and spices. Drinking lots of tea and water, things like that, and especially around plants, is incredibly beneficial. So for all the goofy latest diet that you're going to hear, there's not much data. They keep producing 6-month-old data. Like, they follow 15 people for 6 months and they say, oh, look, we just changed the score by two points. That's not research. When you look at long-term data in Adventist Health Study, 50 years. California Teacher Study, 30 years. The Northern Manhattan Study, 20 years. Framingham Harvard Study, 50 years. All of them, bar none, say go more plant-based. Now, if you can become whole food plant-based, that's great. That's the best. You reduce your risk the most. But if you can't go whole food plant-based, at least increase your amount of greens and beans and cruciferous vegetables and herbs and spices. Reduce salt, and instead of it, use a lot of herbs and spices. Reduce sugar. Carbs are not bad. The carbs, they've demonized carbs as if carbs are fine, especially complex carbs. It's refined carbs that are bad. So reduce refined carbs, reduce salt, and reduce saturated fat. Increase greens, increase beans, increase legumes, cruciferous vegetables, herbs and spices, tea, water, nuts, and that's it. That's the program. Who did you have to pay for that? Nobody. By the way, that's literally 50% reduction of Alzheimer's. And anything that you see on TV, whether it's, should I name names? I'm going to name it. It's okay. Let them sue me. Prevagen or some other pills or whatever, zero data. Zero data. I literally mean, they say that they have data. It's their own contrived internal data, which is not science. Just because you collected a group of people in your own little labs and then constructed some data, that's not data. That's why they never get published. It's the data is greens. Why is nobody doing any marketing on that? No money to be made. Who's going to make money off of broccoli? It's good. Who's going to make money off of walnuts? Who's going to make money off of one of the best proteins out there, which has also the highest omega-3? All of these things, whether it's chia or flaxseed. Chia and flaxseed have 3 to 4 times more omega-3 than omega-6. There's no food out there like that. That's remarkable. So if you just go more plant-centered, if not whole food plant-based, 100%, at least get more plants in your diet and eliminate sugar. Instead of it, use monk fruit, stevia, things like that. Eliminate salt or reduce it significantly. And instead of it, get herbs and spices. Make sure that you get a source of iodine, because all of us in the West are iodine deficient. So salt has some iodine. So just get 1,100 grams of salt a day. And you get that from food anyway. And instead of fat, if you're going to have any fat, it should be olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, not coconut oil. That was a gimmick that lasted 20 minutes. Not palm oil, but olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and even there in small amounts. Not as a cooking, frying thing, but as a topper, like the Europeans do, right? As a top. Just doing that, I just saved you 10 years of life. You're welcome, people. No, I'm just kidding. But that's literally it. There's no need for gimmick. I don't need to wear a tie or a white, jacket or my scrubs and show you my MD, PhD, MPH, which I have. None of those are needed. It's just plain facts. Now, here's the second most powerful thing for brain health, which has been shown in the Harvard study to reduce your Alzheimer's risk by 45%. You're going to think it's going to be a very complicated name, isn't it? It's not. It's called Brisk Walk. A 25 minutes brisk walk consistently reduced chance of Alzheimer's in those at risk, at MCI patients, which are pre-dementia patients, right? I'm not even talking about earlier stages. I'm talking about MCI stage, pre-dementia stage. It reduced the chance of Alzheimer's by 45%. A brisk walk. And we love an early morning brisk walk, because by doing an early morning brisk walk, you also reset your sleep cycle better than anything else. Your melatonin goes down, your cortisol levels go up, your sleep cycle falls into place, your metabolism is re-energized or instituted. The light actually affects your emotions, your mood better than anything else. And by the way, you know what's the best anti-anxiety and antidepressant drug out there? And these are large Harvard studies and Columbia studies. You know what it is? Exercise. 3 times more effective than any SSRI. So why is there nobody talking about a pill that reduces your chance of Alzheimer's by 45%, 3 times more effective than any anxiety drug, yet it's free? A brisk walk. Because there's no money to be made. So between this walk and vegetables, you just reduce your chance of stroke, heart disease, diabetes, and dementia by 90%, 80 to 90%. Remarkable. You don't even have to, you can just clean my name from your memory from here on. Just remember that. I wish you don't, because we're friends from here on, but that's critical. Now, when I say brisk walk, if you have limitations because of knee, if you have limitations because of balance, it's okay. It's not about brisk walk. It's about exercise. So people who have difficulty with knee because of their knees or hips, I say, get one of those foot pedal exercises, put it on a table and do, arm exercises. Or if you have balance issues, get foot pedal exerciser or a recumbent bike, put it in your living space in front of TV. And your rule is you're not going to watch TV unless you're moving the pedaler. and every few commercials, just move it a little faster. Just doing that significantly reduces your chance of dementia, stroke, heart disease, everything. And it's all free. The third one is which is Unwind, stress management. Oh, by the way, with the exercise, one other thing we found out is leg strength is the best health intervention there is. People with bigger legs have bigger brains. People with bigger legs, which actually exercise their legs, also had reduced their risk of dementia. So while you're watching TV, stand up and do little mini squats, or do steps in place. Stronger legs also help you in balance. The number one reason for people over 65 that end up in the emergency room is falls. The number one thing that helps with falls are leg strength. There, that again, free, very simple. Every day when you're watching TV, stand up and do some leg strengthening exercises. So now the Unwind, stress management. So the brain, and we've kind of changed this conversation a bit. We talk about good stress and bad stress. And here's the shocker. Good stress is more important than even bad stress. What is good stress? There's a reason we have this incredibly convoluted, redundant, highly vascular, this is more powerful than any supercomputer in the foreseeable future. And I'm a very technology-oriented person, future-oriented person. I have great hopes in AI and all of that. But right now, this is incredibly powerful. Why? Why would we have created this brain? What is the point of this brain? The point of this brain is good stress. It wants to be challenged. Thousands of years ago, the challenge was figuring out the difference of the kind of things you could do to survive better so you can reproduce. Now the challenge is everything around us, making sure that you push your brain. So we tell people, don't retire, rewire. The group that had the highest decline in cognition, you know who it was? People who were challenged mentally, and then they retired and they didn't do anything for 2 to 3 years. Their brain collapsed. Why? This brain was used to being challenged, and then it wasn't challenged. So it actually shrinks because it says, why would I need all this energy expenditure? So it shrinks. So challenge your brain. And when I get to I'll tell you what kind of good stress. The general idea is good stress is activities that are driven by your purpose, have clear timelines, have clear directions, and clear victories. Bad stress is activities and behaviors and thoughts that are not driven by your purpose, don't have clear direction, and are causing a baseline indolent anxiety, stress, and all of that. So bad stress is incredibly destructive. There are studies that people who've had stress in their life repeatedly, they have shrunken brains, smaller brains. So stress affects the body through the limbic, hypothalamic, pituitary axis and the limbic, hypothalamic, sympathetic axis. The sympathetic is the fight or flight. So the fight or flight was important. If there was a tiger there, your fight or flight should come in, which means the body doesn't need to spend energy on reproduction. All the energy is taken out from that. Body doesn't need to spend energy on immunity, reduce immunity. Body doesn't need to spend energy on growth, just on running away. That's good for short term. But imagine that state being there for months, years, your immune system lower, your growth hormones lower, your GI system down, your reproduction down. That's going to actually destroy your body and the brain. So bad stress must be defined specifically. This is a trick. For those of you taking notes, one of the most important things that I could teach people, Tony Robbins goes up there and says things, rah, and all that, but it really comes down to very simple ways of changing life around specifically identifying good stressors in one's life and specifically identifying bad stressors. So I'll give you an example of good stress. Well, for me, it's good stress. For everybody around me, it's bad stress. I've been trying to learn guitar for 30 years. And I'm terrible. I really think that doesn't get a more terrible musician than me. My wife is an incredible singer, and I'm so jealous. I would give up many of my degrees if I could just be part of a musician. Music is amazing. But I've been playing guitar for 30 years, from classicals to flamenco to whatever, and forget about it. I'm just terrible, tone deaf. But I enjoy it. The act of me learning how to read the notes, played a few chords, play a few songs badly. It serves my purpose. I enjoy it. It pushes me to memorize. It pushes me to think. It pushes me to be creative. That's what the brain is for. And that actually forces the brain to make connections. Now, let me tell you how many connections. Each neuron of the 87 billion neurons can make a couple of connections or as many as 30,000 connections. 30,000. So imagine 87 billion neurons making 30,000 connections. And when I get to the O section, I'll tell you, there are studies like the Nun studies show that that's the biggest protection you can give yourself. Live a life where 2 to 3 hours of your day is driven by your purpose-driven activities. So good stress, bad stress. With bad stress, identify bad stress specifically and measurably. I don't like my job is not specific. I don't like my friends are not specific. I don't like my job. No, I don't like the morning report section of my job, but I like the public speaking part of my job. So of course, some of this might not apply to you guys. You work towards reducing, eliminating, and delegating the negative stuff. And where you want to be or where you want to grow towards, tooling, empowering, and growing towards the good stuff. Maybe it means taking a new class. Maybe it means taking courses online. Maybe it means putting yourself in that situation. That's specific. When it's specific activities, it can happen. So that's stress management. The other parts of stress management are things like meditation and mindful breathing. We love mindful breathing because it gives you a picture into what that calm state could be, that focused state where you can block the noise could be. But I will tell you this, most programs out there fail you because they kind of create false expectations. All of us think that as soon as we see a meditation or mindful video, we're all supposed to become gurus overnight. Nope. If you're starting mindful breathing, your job is to get 6 seconds of focus. That's it. 6 seconds, 5 seconds. And once you get used to the 5 seconds of focus where you're able to block things, then 7 seconds for the next week, then 10 seconds. That state of slow, incremental, measurable change is what you're trying to achieve with whether it's meditation, mindfulness, whatever it is. But the management part of stress management is critical. Sleep. We get invited to these really fancy retreats where we give talks. They give good money. Everybody's all fancy with these unusual gowns they wear. And they say things like be present in the moment. And, they have crystals and all that, which to me, like, I kind of laugh about all that. And I never wear the gowns. But I tell people, and that's why maybe we don't get invited back, is like, you don't need to spend money on these retreats. Spend money on your number one spa space. You know what your number one spa space is? Your bedroom. There's a reason that you are paralyzed and knocked out 8 hours a day. 1/3 of your life where you're knocked out. Why? Because sleep or deep restorative sleep is that important. That important. What does deep restorative sleep mean? You have to go through 4 phases 4 or 5 times. You have phase 1 of sleep, phase 2 of sleep, deep sleep, and then REM sleep. You have to go through those 4 or 5 times per night. And if you don't, it has dire consequences. What is the purpose of sleep? Twofold. Critical fold. One is organizing memories and thoughts. People who don't get good sleep, their memories are affected because the information doesn't go into the right file, folder, or cabinet, proverbially speaking, metaphorically speaking. And that's why memory is bad. The second and even more important reason for sleep is that's when cleansing takes place. This incredibly overpowered machine that's also encased in a hermetically sealed environment, the blood-brain barrier, needs to get rid of waste every day. And you know when it does most of that? During sleep. And when you don't get deep restorative sleep, you know what happens? The brain starts eating away at itself. So sleep is critical. If you have a sleep disorder like sleep apnea, or even suspected, even minimally suspected, you better get it checked out because that's reversible. People who remedy sleep apnea or movement disorders or restless leg syndrome, they actually take away the risk. But people who live with sleep apnea without treating it, or with movement disorders, their risk of Alzheimer's goes up by 70%. So if you suspect a sleep disorder, find a sleep doc and treat it. Now, if you have another kind of sleep disorder, which is insomnia or you can't sleep and things like that, then there is the sleep hygiene and cognitive behavioral therapy. Sleep hygiene, number one biggest thing in sleep hygiene is pattern. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. It recognizes pattern more than anything else. Even I tell people, you think that we are thinking beings. We're actually habit beings. Even our political views are habits that are laid down early on. It's pattern. It's habits. But the biggest habit that you want to set in place is sleep. Go to bed the same time, wake up 8 hours later, the same time every day. Even if you don't sleep that night, that day, don't take a nap. That pattern puts you back into cycle. Pattern is critical. It works through psychology, psychologically connects you to the pattern, also through physiology. It tells the melatonin to be released exactly an hour to two before it's sleep. If it knows when it's supposed to go to sleep regularly, right? But if you alter that sleep cycle, it doesn't know that. Other things about sleep hygiene, light. Light is the number one stimulant of wakefulness. So lower the lights a little bit, half an hour before sleep. Don't use the phone or the iPad or the computer and the blue light. Make sure that when you wake up in the middle of the night, it's not the bright light on top that you have another light for waking up, which is a red light that allows you to see where you're going, yet at the same time not falling, right? And at the same time, it doesn't wake you up. Light is critical. And if you have, and make your room dark. If you have to wear the mask, the eye mask, do that. And we just traveled to New York. We came back yesterday. We had 2 sessions with Dr. Oz and back to New York. And then we went to Chicago. And so the sleep was thrown out. The thing that helped me the most was the eye patches. Anytime I would put them on, I would be out. So light is critical. The second thing is sound. Sound is profoundly important. The one thing that gave you protection in the middle of the night when you were paralyzed, your hypersensitive ears. So if there's any complex noise, it's going to wake you up. So soundproof your room or wear the earplugs. Or if there's running thoughts, if you want noise in the background, make sure it's not complex noise like music. It's white noise. That helps. Third is temperature, environment. It appears that research shows that if the room is a little cooler, it helps you sleep better. It doesn't mean that you don't have warm and blankets, but at least the room should be a little cooler side. And then food, more important than what to eat to sleep better, it's what not to eat. Coffee has an 8-hour half-life. 8 hours. So 8 hours later, half of it's still in your body, caffeine. So don't drink coffee before, after like 1 o'clock, depending on when you sleep, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, or anything caffeinated. Don't eat food an hour to an hour and a half to 2 hours before sleep, because even though it's not making sound, your body is active during its digestion, so it's going to affect your sleep. So don't eat right before sleep. Those are a couple of the food things. So environment and food are important, and behavior is the timing. Go to bed same time, wake up same time. So sleep is critical, and work on your sleep, because that's when the cleansing of the brain takes place. Last one is O of the neuro, optimize, which is the good stress. We did a meta-analysis with one of the largest in research that showed that when you work around your purpose, when you do activities that are complex, real life activities as opposed to games on computer, in the future, by the way, those games will become sophisticated enough that will work just for you. So again, that's my technology side. I really do believe that in a few years, we will be there, that they will create games just for your personality, just for your weakness, but we're not there. At this point, real life activities are important. So what are those real life activities? Learning a musical instrument, taking a class that you always wanted to online or in person, learning to dance, reading books, being part of a book club, running a project, volunteering, Or, I'm part of the Loma Linda system. It's a Seventh-day Adventist organization. I might have gotten in trouble several times when I suggested people joining a poker club. Poker is complex, card games are complex, and conversations are great. That's a mental activity, not Sudoku. So those kind of complex activities, or building things, if you're into building ships or building whatever, painting, multiple of those, because each of those actually have focus on different cognitive domains. Some of them are visual spatial, some of them are language, some of them are attention, some of them are executive function. But when you build your life around multiple of those complex real life activities, you give your brain profound protection, profound. So you can see now that by going more plant-centered, if not completely plant-based, reducing fat and sugar, reducing salt, exercising, by the way, gardening or walking the neighborhood is not exercise. You got to break a sweat. Exercising significantly, stress management, better sleep, and mental activity around your purposes. How could that not protect your brain? If nutrition alone was 53% to 55%, imagine all of it combined. If exercise alone was 45%. So when we go out to communities and preach the idea of real life activities, but comprehensively, it's because we know how powerful and how effective it is. By the way, it's not going to be one thing. Dr. Sherzai, Dean, I added blueberries. Are you still eating the steak and the burgers? Yes, but blueberries are not going to do anything. Those blueberries have to be like made of kryptonite. Well, kryptonite is negative, but something incredibly positive to do the negative effect of something fried or processed. So it's critical to approach it comprehensively. With that, our approaches in the communities, we actually, when it comes to research, which is our Healthy Minds Initiative, our non-for-profit, we are willing to go into the communities and help establish these. We've done it in the Black churches. We've done it in Redondo Beach and beach cities here. We've done it in many other communities where we've created an online forum, not on social media, but on a separate, secure online forum where we teach people how to cook, how to exercise for them, but around their own environments, and to completely change their life without having to pay money for these vitamins that don't work. Of the vitamins, we actually did the research on the vitamin side. 2 vitamins are important, actually several, but only if you're deficient. So you got to talk with your doctor to find out what your B vitamin levels are. If you're low or abnormal or even low, I say supplement yourself with a B vitamin. I don't care which brand, I'm not selling anything. So vitamin D is another one. Check your vitamin D level. We live in California, and even in our population, which the reason I say that because vitamin D, sun helps produce vitamin D, about 15 to 20% of our population is vitamin D deficient. And that has dire consequences on brain health. So ask your doctor to check your vitamin D levels. And if it's low, that should be supplemented. The other 2 are omega-3. We did the meta-analysis, huge study that was just submitted with 2 papers. One was omega-3 and the developing brain, omega-3 and the aging brain. It appears that both sides need some supplementation. So take omega-3, maybe from algae-based, but it doesn't matter to me. Just get omega-3. Omega-3s are important. So that's the one that because the checking the omega-3 level is difficult and not very reliable, just take it. It doesn't do any harm, but check with your physician at all times. That's it. The rest, there's no data unless you're deficient. They're just finding the fancy name, trademarking it, probably young man from New York, and then selling it to people, marketing it based on no data. Food works, exercise works, sleep works, and mental activity around your purposes work. And that's what protects you. I hope that was helpful.
That's an amazing amount of information in a very short period of time. Thank you so much.
My
Do we have
pleasure.
questions? Anybody here with questions? Okay.
What if you are just an insomniac?
Yeah.
And Years I took Benadryl, and I think it definitely messed up my memory. What do you do if you can't sleep?
Yeah. So if you're insomniac, you have to find out the cause of insomnia. Is it running thoughts? Is it some pains? Is it some cramps that you're not even aware of? Is it movements that you're not aware of that are actually affecting your sleep? If it's running thoughts, cognitive behavioral therapy is tremendously effective. There are lots of people out there, sleep doctors, that can help you with cognitive behavioral therapy. Here's a trick. If you have running thoughts, it's an association with bed and thinking. So initially you went to bed, everything was quiet. That was the only time that the thoughts came to you. But since that repeated, that relationship became reversed, meaning that every time now you go to bed, that primes the thinking. So the going to bed. So you have to decouple that relationship. So I tell people, have a red light, have a chair next to bed, have a notepad and a pen. From here on, as soon as you go to bed, as soon as the thought comes, get up, sit on the chair, don't turn on the top light, just the red light. Write those thoughts in bullet form, not in manifesto form, bullet form. Nothing good comes out of late night manifestos. So bullet form, write those, and then put it down next to you and go to sleep. This is not going to change your behavior for a while, but every morning review that list, and you'll see that thing that was in your mind about not paying that bill, or that lady that looked at you in a certain way, or that thing that you forgot wasn't as big a deal as you thought in the middle of the night. So that disempowers it. And the fact that you got out of bed, wrote it on a piece of paper and parked it, decouples the behavior. And after a couple of months, that's going to affect your relationship with sleep. That's one little trick as far as cognitive behavioral therapy.
Thank you.
There's a question in the chat as well from Stephanie. She said, what about listening to a meditation tape to get to sleep?
So meditation tape depends on, so meditation tape, meaning that they help you with meditation. Yes. If they're giving a lecture, no, they're always boring. They're just self-serving and, but if it's a meditation with a soft voice taking you through the steps, yes, that's fine. That's fine. Absolutely.
Other questions?
How about the use of a sound machine?
Yeah. White noise, you mean, right?
Yes.
Yeah, white noise works, but make sure that it's white noise. A lot of people think that if they have music in the background, that's the same thing as white noise. It's not. Music is complex. The brain recognizes complexity and pattern from the monotone sounds of nature, like rain, like a hissing sound, or wind, or the ocean. If there's any complexity to it, it's going to affect your sleep. Even though you think you're sleeping, you're not going to deep sleep. By the way, up to now, a lot of you, I've realized that up to this point, everybody kind of likes me. And then when I tell them this, I lose a few people. The amount of alcohol that's good for your brain is 0. Zero, not 4. The people that want to read the right, they're going to see 3. No, I mean 0, 0. But now, if you drink a glass of wine here and there every night, that's fine. At least I don't want you to start believing those gurus out there say, oh, Mediterranean diet and wine is good. This is junk science. That's just, there are people out there that know that people want to hear good news about their bad habits, and they give it to them. I don't do that. I tell the facts. So if you haven't drank up to now, don't. If you're drinking a glass of wine a night, that's fine, but don't go more than that. Alcohol might put you to sleep, but it affects deep sleep. And there's plenty of data on that. I hope I've still retained some of you here.
I'm still with you. Any other questions? Anybody on Zoom have questions?
Is melatonin as a supplement, is that helpful?
Of all the sleep medicine, so we're not against medicines. We're not like some of the people that throw the baby with the bathwater, the lifestyle guys or this functional guys. No, medicine is important. If you have high cholesterol, until lifestyle takes over, you need to take cholesterol medicine. High cholesterol is highly correlated with dementia, highly correlated with stroke. So if you have high cholesterol, treat it with medicine, but bring lifestyle so that over time you need less and less of that until you can take it out. If you have diabetes and some goofball tells you, some doctor, that, oh, lifestyle is going to fix you, so stop your diabetes medicine, sue the doctor, because that's killing you. Use the medicine until lifestyle takes over. Same thing with sleep meds. I'm not a big supporter of benzodiazepines like the Xanax and the Valium and all of that, but others, fine. Of them all, even though some people also have a paradoxical response to this, but melatonin is more natural. I hate using that word, like using the word organic and natural. People just use it as a garbage pail, but it is more natural. Using it once in a while, or even for a protracted period of time until sleep comes back, is fine. But under the supervision would be better.
Dr. Scherze, how can everyone reach you? Like, website, your podcast? Can you tell us a little bit if we want to continue to follow you? You have more books, a cookbook actually. So can you give us a little more information about you and how to stay in touch by way of your information?
More importantly, you want to see my better half, who's a professional singer, a professional cook, stroke specialist, and way better looking than me, and smarter and better spoken. So you want to see her. Yeah. Hold on. Do you guys see this? Can you see this?
Yes.
Yes, again.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is our old book, the first book. This is the current book that came out in March and is bestseller. It's doing well, and again, it's very functional. It has 75 recipes, easy, tasty, meaningful recipes that you can apply to your life, and then lots of the applications. And if you want to contact us, sharezimd.com, at social media. And this is our Healthy Minds Initiative, which is our effort, non-for-profit, trying to get into the communities and help all the communities. Wonderful.
Hang on, you say it again, you're muted.
Dr. Scherze, you have your neuro plan that members can look at on your website?
Yes, if you go to neuroacademy.com, you can see it there. I should put that here, shouldn't I?
There it is.
Yeah, there. Neuroacademy.com.
Do you have any more questions? Yeah, terrific, Dr. Scherze. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. I hope we can connect again. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk to you more about the neuro plan and perhaps bringing it to our community here. So
We're here to serve. That's it. And I know that sounds cheesy. That sounds a little hokey, but our entire life is about service and making a difference in people's lives. And yeah, everything we do goes towards that effort.
that's excellent. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Dr. Scherze.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ken.